team. Welcome to week 3, where we will be discussing equipment on the golf course. Major players in the golf course equipment industry are John Deere and Toro. John Deere also produces a lot of equipment for the agricultural industry as a whole, so they have much higher revenues, whereas Toro is much more focused on golf course equipment. At Laurel Creek, we primarily use Toro equipment other than a few John Deere Pro Gators. Let's take a look at one of the most crucial positions on a golf course management team, the equipment technician. Some general qualifications for an equipment technician on a golf course include knowledge of small engines and diesel engines, hydraulic and electronic schematic reading, troubleshooting of equipment, that's engine diagnostics and assessing the quality of cut for mowing equipment is also an important skill specific to golf courses. And then with respect to tolerances down to 1/1000th of an inch. Additionally, from an education standpoint, there are vocational technical high schools that offer auto mechanic and diesel mechanic programs specific to small engines. There are several online certification programs, and within the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America, there's a certified equipment manager and an equipment management certification program. So there are some methods out there to gaining certificates in golf course equipment management. I should have mentioned the GCSAA last week. The GCSAA is dedicated to serving its members, advancing their profession, and improving communities through the enjoyment, growth, and vitality of the game of golf. There are a ton of resources offered through the GCSAA for turfgrass managers. I suggest visiting their website and taking a look at all the resources available to you there. Now a profile on a Laurel Creek's equipment technician, Don Roble. Don studied auto mechanics at Burlington County Vocational Technical High School. Prior to becoming Laurel Creek's equipment technician, Mr. Roble was part of the team as a lead spray technician, and importantly, like I mentioned last week, Don is a completely cross-trained team member, meaning he can use any piece of equipment on the golf course and he knows the product that should be produced by each piece of equipment. So to those pursuing the career of an equipment technician, some advice from Mr. Roble. Number 1, gain experience operating all of your equipment. Makes sense? Use the Kohler study guides to assess your knowledge. These study guides are attached in this week's email, and they are a good way to assess what you know and what you don't know with respect to background knowledge for this position. Also, stay up to date on new research by reading industry publications. Find out the new types of equipment that are coming out, the advancements and things that are changing about the equipment used on a golf course. And a good resource for that is the Real Turf Techs podcast, and a link for that is also included in the video. I've listened to it as well several times, and it is a really good look into the equipment side of our business. We will look at the different pieces of equipment on the golf course, particularly the difference between rotary mowers and reel mowers. The type of mower that most people are familiar with is a rotary mower, which has a two-sided blade that as the machine moves forward, spins at a high rate of speed, and clips the grass. Some examples of rotary mowers at Laurel Creek are your standard push-behind mowers that are used to cut tight areas of rough. Then on a larger scale, you have the 4500 Groundsmaster, which has 5 rotary mower decks, and we use that for cutting large areas of rough. And then there's the 3500 Sidewinder that has a little more maneuverability in tighter areas, so that's used around greens and tee boxes. Our discussion of reel mowers begins with some terminology. So we have the reel, which is a cylinder of helix-shaped blades. Then there is the bed knife, which is a flat edge sharpened so that the relation between the reel and the bed knife creates the cutting action here at the shear point. A couple other things to note from this diagram. The height of cut is the distance between the shear point and the bottom of the rollers. Then the attitude is discussed frequently, and Mr. Roble will go over this in more detail this week, but the attitude is referenced by the surface of the turf and the bed knife's relationship to that flat surface. An important concept with reel mowers is clip, and clip is the forward distance traveled between successive blade contacts at one shear point. So essentially, the clip is the distance between blades as it contacts the bed knife. When clip rate is optimal, we see this type of this type of mowing action, which is going to be the best for the health of the turf and also playing conditions, where an even number of blades are collected and clipped, and when the groupings are cut, you see there's a little bit of a difference between the heights here. However, it's so small that it's not going to impact ball roll negatively. So here's how clip impacts playability. So we look at this cutting unit and look at all the leaf blades that are collected by this blade, and they come in contact with the bed knife and clip, and we look at this drastic difference in height between these blades up front and the blades at the forward end of the clip. So when diameter of the reel, number of blades, speed of travel, and ground speed are all not taken into account with respect to clip rate, then we can have a situation where we're collecting too many blades of grass at one time, and that's going to in turn affect the playability of the putting surface if this is on a green. So we want to try to maintain an ideal situation where height of cut equals clip rate. And at Laurel Creek, where we cut the greens at 1/10 of an inch, our clip rate should therefore be 1/10. A sign that something is wrong with the clip rate is this type of appearance in the turf, where you can clearly see non-uniform height of cut throughout this pass. So this is a sign that too many leaf blades are being collected in each single clip, and that's resulting in a non-uniform surface, which will obviously impact playability. Another note on quality of cut is when the reel speed is too fast in relation to the ground speed of the mower and blades are being contacted by the reels multiple times, can result in excessive wear and tear on the grass, which will over time impact the long-term health of the turf. So this is a situation where we want to make sure that we're running the mowers at full throttle because the relationship between ground speed and reel speed is calibrated to optimize turf health. Maintaining a sharp cutting unit promotes turf health and after cut appearance. So in this figure you see a sharp cut here, and as time goes on you can see that the turf is beginning to grow again and it looks healthy. Good job. On the other hand, you look at this dull blade that pretty much just smashed the top of this blade of grass, and then as time goes on you look at the leaf blade, the top is damaged, it looks dehydrated, not very aesthetic, and it's also not going to contribute to playability if this is on a putting surface. A final note on quality is when the reel and bed knife are not properly aligned, and when there's too large a gap between the blades of the reel and the bed knife, instead of a clipping action, you're going to get a tearing and smushing of the turf blades, which is not going to result in healthy turf, and it's going to result in poor cut, which won't help playability either. So this is a measurement that is checked on a daily basis after every use, and Mr. Roble is going to take you through that process this week. The two types of reel mowers that we have at Laurel Creek are the Flex 21 hand mower and Toro triplexes. The triplexes have 3 reel cutting units, and the hand mowers obviously just have the one. There, there is also a 5-gang reel mower that some golf courses will use for their fairways. However, at Laurel Creek, we choose for the triplex on the fairways due to the heavy undulations, and over time those 5-unit machines begin to impact the turf quality within the fairways on those slopes. Now I'm going to go through some non-mowing equipment that we expect our seasonal guys to have some competency with by the end of their first season. That first machine is the Sand Pro. So on the right we have the unit we currently use at Laurel Creek, the Sand Pro 5040. And then on the left is the newest version of a Sand Pro that's available, and it's essentially a cross between Toro's zero-turn mower and the Sand Pro 5040. Uh, look up some videos on YouTube about that. Pretty cool machine. So we have string trimmers and blowers, including the tow behind Pro Force blower or the Buffalo turbine blower. Um, Important just to understand how these machines work and their use in detailing the golf course, making sure it is clean and presentable to play. As I mentioned last week, an important skill to develop for the golf course is the operation of manual transmission vehicles. So at some point, if you are unfamiliar with how to run one of these machines, definitely come and ask us and we will help train you on one of them. On the job this week, we will be arranging time with Mr. Roble for him to show you how he checks clip and how to adjust the reel to bed knife alignment, checking and adjusting the bench height of cut, and detailing the cutting unit setup. So during this time, it would be a great opportunity to discuss some of the questions you may have with respect to reel mowing with Mr. Roble. Later in the summer, we'll cover the equipment specific to aerification, such as the Procore 648 that you see here, as well as the harvester units that go on the John Deere. And during the spray technician week, we will highlight the multi-pro that is used to spray at Laurel Creek. Otherwise, that is it for week number 3. Let's have a great one.